We are moving to the last block. And I think it's one of the other important blocks again. It's about the career afterwards. And I always say the career afterwards start maybe already with the beginning of your career. It's not only the moment you stopped or injured or that you suddenly have to think about a different life or a different career. I think, Wolfgang, maybe you had that experience a bit that you had to stop your football career because of an injury. Mm-hmm. And then have to think about, what should I do now? Just your personal transition change at that time.
I mean, it's a crisis, that's for sure. When you fall out of your dedication, your passion, like I did. It was from one moment to the other, but I'm in a way proud to say that I can act as a role model for the athletes I'm working with now, because it actually wasn't a problem. Because I always focused on developing as a whole person, the thing we are talking about. So the phase between crisis and stabilization was quite short in my personal career. So the transition wasn't too long. I got to quote Paul for a second. When there is no transition management and when there is no preparation during your active career, it takes around 2 years to stabilize. And that's a long period. So I absolutely refuse to believe that vocational development is a matter of the end of your career. It's a constant approach, a constant subject throughout.
Jeff, I think in professional sports, many athletes, many people, players try to continue their career because what else to do?
Of course, they have no other option, so they want to keep going as long as they can. Then the question becomes more difficult because of the diversity of profile of players and the diversity of jobs where they want to transition into. And sometimes it's even more complicated because when you're done with professional sport at 35, you're not going to go to school for 7 years and become a surgeon. Doesn't make any sense because you will not be able to sustain your family for 7 years, not making any money and become potentially one of the best surgeons in the world. So there is a certain type of job that you have to forget. And then you also have the capacity of the athletes to recognize what he wants to do and achieve his goal. He achieved his goal as a player or as an athlete, and then how he can achieve his goals as a person.
This morning it was said, there was somebody, I think, if I remember the example well, he was qualified as a doctor, then continued the career for 8 years in sport, and after 8 years, no chance to get a real profession as a doctor, because he was missing 8 years of, let's say, additional education. Paul.
Yes, that's actually a phenomenon we know under the title of occupational delay. And that's something the world of education doesn't realize enough. That is, you can have a wonderful dual career, but your Olympic career goes on after that you acquire your degree or diploma. But your competencies change or are not enough. So actually, some of our athletes who have done a full dual career, a wonderful Olympic career, then want to start in a job. And they say, well, I'm sorry, you have to go back to university or whatever to get up those competencies you missed. Now, the world of education needs to think about this because our job is not done when they have the diploma they want. It's also thinking about their future. And that's why my opening statement was, we should have an athletic career as a career development as other careers. Okay? And if I can give an example of the Netherlands, we have now changed the philosophy to saying that the athletic career actually expands up until the former elite athlete is within a new career path, whether that's in 6 months, 2 years, 5 years. So we need to take responsibility. The challenge we have now is finding universities who are willing to bring Wolfgang back for a couple of courses in order to upgrade his skills for the diploma he needs. Okay?
Tuli, in Finland, you stopped your career as an athlete,
Yeah.
and then?
Then I put to my CV that not my sport career as hobby, as I had done before, but I put it to work experience. And I think that's something that we work on now in Finland, that we want to help athletes to make better use of their athlete career as real career. Like you can do sport, but doing that you do sport and you go to competition and so on, and that's you could do much better. You could make it as your career, do things as profession do. So that's something we need to work on with athletes, because it's not for sure that they do it. It's like a little bit like this competence building, competence training. That's something. Yeah.
Alison, UK, Olympics, many gold medals, test program, very effective for the talented. What's happening with the athletes after?
Well, I don't think we are concentrating heavily on that, simply because we believe so strongly about the input at the early part of the young person's career in education and sport. And if you get that right and give them the right tools, they will start to make some of those choices about their areas of training, what they want to do alongside their sport, and therefore be able to plan and make very conscious decisions as they progress both through their sporting career and their education. So they realize where perhaps they want to choose a profession where there may be the gap appears that we've just talked about, and they can plan to deal with that. It's possible for some athletes to step in and out of their sport for a year to catch up even. We've watched it happen in a number of cases. So I think it's about giving people tools early on with which to plan, and therefore exit perhaps in a more knowledgeable way.
Jean-Loup, you were quite experienced in Luxembourg with your bank, trying to give the athletes a sort of career afterwards, or is it at the same?
I must say, I have in mind several concrete situations that went fine, and we don't have to talk about the details of each person. I'm trying to give more the ingredients that we need in order to have a chance to succeed. Of course, there needs to be, first of all, a project, and you have to convince on that project. But from the surroundings, from the bank, in fact, one first thing is you need to have the support of the very top. That must not be a big discussion, shall we do things like that or not? It must be in the DNA of the corporation. In my case, and the name of the bank is not important, but for instance, the founder of the bank 98 years ago, he was a soccer player in the early 1900s, something like that. He even had the license number 1 in Luxembourg. So but that was long ago. The honorary chairman of the bank was a fencer, an Olympic fencer in Helsinki, 52. So there the pace was set. That's one thing. The second one is that the bank, in fact, has to be big enough to offer different various opportunities, so that you, with your degree in economics or law, that's quite obvious. But if you have something more special, can we arrange something? You have the middle management, human resources management, who have to follow, at least not to block. Your direct boss must see the value of what you are doing, and last but not least, the athlete, the candidate himself, must be willing to fit in. If you come in and say, hey, you know, I'm the guy who won that thing, did you see me? It might be difficult. But if you come in humble and say, well, what can I help you? What can I learn? What can I help you? We had the goalkeeper of the national team in the bank. He often had to leave because of games, preparation, things, and so on. Well, he made one of the first statements he made to his co-workers was, well, I have to leave and you have to work for me. I will not make bridges at the end of the year. I will work and you can go. And that was the winning part of his aspect. If you involve and bring your co-workers to your side, it will work. And it has worked. The guy I had in mind, who was a 3-time Olympic swimmer, same specialty than you, he's now heading a department of 15 credit analysts at the age of 36. Okay. So that's a success story. But it's one, and we have to give more of us like this.
I mean, the success story is one, but the second question, of course, is it embedded in an agreement, for instance, with the Olympic Committee or with the federation?
Yeah. Yes and no. The bank is one of the partners of the Olympic Committee, and we were talking, we are about to talk, to include in the sponsoring contracts of the main sponsors declaration of intent to follow positively these situations or similar situations. But it's not in the contracts right now, but current bosses confirmed that he would be interested in having something like this. Dual career and RSE is helping.
But it helps a lot that you are as well in the bank as well in the Olympic Committee?
Probably not.
No.
Probably
Okay.
not.
No, sorry.